Way. Oh, great. Okay, thank you. So I'm really excited about the topic this month, which is your signature talk. But let's start off, as we often do, with our wins. We don't need a secretary for this part. We're just going to do the 1 minute celebrations, purely positive, total unconditional, really stretch that muscle and see how many wins you can get in 1 minute. So who wants to take the challenge first?
I will.
Great.
Okay. So most of my wins this week were quite personal. I have had a shelf of things that I've been planning to sell so I could have, in case I ran out of money. It's been this like fear thing of things that from my marriage that I could sell, different items and whatnot. And I cleared the whole fucking thing out. So last weekend, I like went through every box and I pulled out all this shit. And this is part of my like creating space structure thing. I was like, okay. And so now I have this like blank wall and this open space that I'm gonna turn into like a like workout slash meditation, like just a personal area altar that I'm really, really excited about. That used to be this like scary place in my bedroom. Yeah, so that's been huge shift for me.
Yeah. So I'm celebrating just the shamanic rearranging the furniture, literally.
Literally.
I love
all of it. Look at all of it, man. All of it.
Great. Yeah. Call on somebody.
Brianna.
There I am. Yeah.
Do you prefer being called Bree?
Yeah, usually Bree. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my heart's kind of racing right now. I feel like I'm in this mindset of like, oh, I want to talk about all the things that like are going wrong for me right now. So I've written a list. I went away on vacation to Palm Springs with a lover of mine. It felt really nourishing and luxurious. We didn't hold back. We did amazing things. We turned a whole day into a photo shoot for me, so I could just gather more content to post on Instagram and for different posts. I had 2 really great sessions, a couple session and a solo session, really feeling like in like when I'm really in flow with working on one-on-one and couple session work. And I've been brainstorming more. I'm going to say that as a win, but I also feel like it's pulling me in a lot of different directions. But I feel like I'm needing something else in my field right now to just keep my creativity online around how to develop my career. And I don't want to lose focus. I just want to have more. Thank you.
Hey.
Elvira.
Yeah, wins. Yeah, I've started to plan my free offering. I don't think I have so many wins this time, but yeah, I'm planning it and I'm talking with my web designers so they can help me. So I'm on it. And
Good.
I've been planning my travels and retreats, even if I've been sick. So everything is quite clear. So I sorted things out. So that's my win.
You have 30 more seconds, so give us some personal wins.
Personal. Yeah. I'm not sure, actually.
How about gratitude? Something you're grateful for?
My friends right now. Grr.
Who's next? Elvira.
Who's here? Kana.
Hi guys. Ladies, I created space. Yes. I am finally getting grounded, and really feeling structures start to like get into place. All the home like finally really grounded, and and all the self-care practices that I put into place over the past 2 weeks like really gained a lot of traction. I feel like I'm like going back into sanity. Like my channel is recalibrating in a really big way, so I'm having the space to be able to actually follow through on the messages that I'm getting. And it's like they're not getting stuck in my system, and they're going all the way down to like go to completion, which makes me really happy. I'm feeling really held. Some really great client sessions, feeling really good about that. Conversation. I'm going down to Southern California next week to am I up with time?
Yeah.
Great, fantastic. I just kept talking.
Hope to see you in SoCal.
Yeah, Bree. Yeah, well, let's do it. Sumati.
Okay, I got 2 clients, well, 3, but the third one just did a one-off session, but 2 clients who bought packages from me recently. And one of them is from Australia, so it's kind of cool that I have my first international client. And I did my first session with them, and it went really well. And it just feels really good working with people and knowing that I can really help them. And I had a pretty productive week. I got a lot of stuff ticked off on the to-do list, and kind of got caught up with this group as much as I could, and watched some of the old videos, and printed out all those overwhelming coaching documents. Oh my God. But anyway, that's not the positive. I printed them out. Okay. I looked at them and I saw areas where I can improve, which is great, so I know what my goal is, what to work toward. I've been really landing in my 12-step community here on Maui. I took a secretary position for this one meeting, which is really helping me meet more people, because it's a speaker meeting, so I have to find a speaker every week. So it makes me go to other meetings and look for speakers. And so that's really helping me feel a part of that. And that's where I'm getting like my live community and hugs and 3-dimensional people off of Zoom. So that's really helpful, and it's been fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. That's great. Welcome.
Oh, who hasn't gone yet? Ella, did you go?
Hi, everyone. My wins. I finally made it to California. The road trip is coming to an end. It feels very exciting, and I feel a lot of ideas and things bubbling inside of me, and I'm ready to start manifesting a home and diving into the work mode. Also, my wins are about around loving and relating and relationships and all that stuff. So that's been very productive, great learning experiences. I feel complete. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have Jenna next. Are you with us?
Yes. Hi. Wins. Well, as I shared in the thread, I created sacredsex.com, and I got my first couple who enthusiastically filled it out, and that's amazing. I'm continuing to promote the Cowgirl Retreat, and actually there's a couple of people from ISTA 1. I texted the ISTA 1 group, and a couple of people responded that they're interested. So one we're having a phone call soon. The other one I let Dave is going to follow up with, Jeremy. I'm in Brazil. I got laid 6 nights in a row. I got worshipped by a foot worshiper. I had woke up in the middle of the night with food poisoning at 5 a.m. and now it's 5 p.m. 12 hours later, I'm feeling fine. So going from a fever and thinking I had corona to I'm actually fine is a miracle of my healthy body processing. So
Yay.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. You look beautiful, by the way. I don't know if you have a high-end camera, but there's a way in which, the background's faded out and you look really good.
Oh, thank you. That's a Zoom option.
Oh,
It's a Zoom filter. You can fade the background.
okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
For those of us that are considering cam work. Okay, sweet.
Yeah, where you just go into more, I think meeting settings. I don't know. Someone tell me how to do it.
Okay.
Backgrounds and filters.
Well, we have all kinds of toys and tools. I want to start today's talk with a story. Okay, so signature talks is the topic. And how many of you have a signature talk? So raise your hand, put it up close to the screen so I can see. Yay, Sumati. Okay, good. And so I want to define it first, that it is something that you're known for, that people can hire you to talk, or you could show up anywhere and do it because it's already like in the can, packaged, planned. You repeat it multiple times. It's something that that ideally generates clients, and that you could kind of do in a moment's notice. This is generally what a signature talk is known as. Obviously, we're in this sacred, sexy field, and things are a little different than if you get all kinds of, there's a lot of teachings out there about signature talks being these like big client generating sales opportunities. And I want to bring that wisdom to what we're doing, but I want to be really specific to our field of embodiment and love and spirit. And so there's going to be kind of a fusion in the way that I share. How many people have seen my TEDx talk? So I do great, like how talking about sex can spark a social revolution. That's the talk that I gave. Now I want to tell you that story that a friend of mine and Bree, a mutual friend of ours, was like, I want to host a TEDx like convention. And so my role in supporting Dave Buddha, who was doing it, was to help him with I was helping more help the speakers, because as a theater, as a coach and a theater person, I'm like, oh, let me help you with the public speaking, blah, blah, blah. And it was almost a side note for me, like, oh, I guess I could talk too, and I was really busy. I was off at Brazil when I made the agreement that yes, I'm going to do a TED talk, but it fell on the day after I returned from 2 weeks in Brazil. So I missed the dress rehearsal, everything. I'm just like, okay, I'll just show up and give this talk. Now, what is interesting is I'm at core, I'm at the beach topless with other ISTA people, and I'm throwing together like, what can I talk about, and I'm rehearsing it to the palm trees. And then on the way home, I go to this big beautiful waterfall. I drink the fresh water, which I thought was Giardia free. Little did I know on the plane ride home I got very, very sick. And so I know Jenna can relate to this. I'm like, it's coming out both ends. I'm really, really sick. And I have to show up for this TED talk, which is not rehearsed. I'm with this group of people. I don't know who they are. And they kind of, I literally am in the bathroom, I pull it together. They shuffle me onto stage. And I'm like, the room is spinning. I give the talk. And fortunately in that moment, because I am a, trained speaker, and I have so many hours of just like being a messenger, the I ego stepped aside, and like the true self came through and shared from my heart at a couple of moments. Other times the mind was in fucking freak out, like what's happening? Am I gonna get sick? I'm gonna barf on the, you know, on the audience. But for the most part, like the messenger came through, delivered the talk, and pulled it off. And when I look back on that talk, one of the biggest things that I'm excited about is because I was so sick, I didn't really have time to get so nervous. Often when I hear people talking about their signature talks, including Brene Brown, who did this epic vulnerability TED talk, they just talk about the shame hangover and how nerve-wracking it is. And what am I gonna say? Because public speaking is considered a fear, you know, wired into the humans as great as death or next to death. It's that scary. Now, for me, primarily when I tell people, you know, or because I did the talk, what resulted was a lot of people saying, I saw your talk. People who would never know me, people who wouldn't come to an ISTA conference or a Tantra festival have heard of me and shared that and tell me they've seen it. And so I got access to a whole different kind of market. Now, and I get to put it on my website. So it's like a feather in my cap. That's the benefit of that. For a lot of people who do TED Talks, however, it turns into other speaking gigs, other potential book deals. You know, and this is what happened with Brene Brown. She's like, I don't want to do that. And it just gained so much momentum. She got extraordinary book deals. And now she's like, every time she speaks, it's upward of 10 grand. Now, she's obviously not in our field. And we've talked a little bit about financially how there is kind of a sex ghetto, or there's, you know, like people are so, I don't know, willing to speak and teach and experience embodiment, and they're not valuing it as high. But I will say that I have shared a stage with, oh gosh, what's his name in this moment? Dan Savage. And I shared a stage, it was Dan Savage, and it was also the author of Sex at Dawn. We were talking about, you know, what we get paid to speak. And I'm like, honestly, I'm like, oh, I'm thrilled when I get my all expense paid. I get to fly somewhere. I get to go to a festival, you know, get festival and food for free. Like, that's great. And I have been doing keynote experiences where as the keynote, you know, I'm fully paid for, sometimes my hotel or whatever, whether it's a poly conference or a tantra or a swingers conference. My husband has had, you know, his cruise paid for, but I don't have a whole lot of experience of getting, you know, the big bucks. But here I am with Dan Savage and with Christopher Ryan, and Dan Savage gets paid upward of 10K per talk. And he's in our field, like he's a gay guy talking about, you know, coining the term monogamish and talking about consensual non-monogamy and other things about sexuality. So that's really inspiring and important to note that you can, just by speaking skills, get really, you know, get into a place of high payment. And it is something that's very self-generated these days with both YouTube live streams and all of the online festivals and symposiums. You can really climb the ranks as a public speaker and get invited into places, you know, extraordinary and fun treats and experiences. So with that, what I want to focus on today's talk is your, first of all, creating a talk that is like what you want to be known for. And whether that's online or in person, really doesn't matter. It's the same technology. In fact, I encourage you to create it for both, you know, these days. And the way that our my download will go, you know, is that I'm gonna in a moment with you brainstorm why, you know, why you particularly want to do a signature talk. And we're gonna go deeper into what is the content of the talk you want to do. I will also go through the specifics of like where do you start? And so this is where if you have any questions about the process, and I'll give you kind of like my best formula for that. And then at the end, we'll be sure to have, more Q&A before going through like our group's next steps and what we're gonna, what our homework is. So with that, I want to brainstorm why. Like I mentioned some of the big, like benefits, and it is so important because some of you, I'm wondering why not. When I asked who had a signature talk, and Sumati and I are the only ones in this group, it's like, why not? Why? What's stopping you? And I think that's a really important question is, why don't you have one? And just kind of look at that. Like, is it because you don't know how? Is it because you feel like, oh, you have to be, published author or so? Do you have some limiting belief stopping you? And let that go. Because honestly, these are very different times where people can create talks in their garage with a camera and then send that out to, various wherever you want and just apply to speak. So I really want to encourage you that it doesn't take much to put this together. And then, we went through, I kind of went through many ideas, but let me ask you, popcorn style, why do you want to create, a talk? Why would you want to be a public speaker? Great, go ahead.
I love talking. I've got a lot to say. Yeah, and I think it's something that I could integrate into a lot of different work I do. I could do it before performances. I could do a talk at play parties, events I'm hosting. I could get free places to networking if I offer my speaking skills and use that to kind of tag on to my coaching offerings. And yeah, I think it could be utilized in a lot of ways for me.
Excellent. Who else? Why? Arielle, welcome. Arlie. Yeah.
Sorry, it's a little late. I've always wanted to have a signature talk. I've tried to come up with one multiple times. It's challenging, but that's maybe because of my teacher wanted me to really focus on like my core transformational story, and I have just too many. So I've been on stage and like delivered talks, but I'm a channeler. So why I would love to have a little bit of a format is like when I'm on stage, I get to channel, but I also would love to like really impact people. And I know that just sometimes my presence has an energetic frequency that can help a lot of people. And so I've always seen myself delivering some sort of talk and getting paid to speak. I just haven't figured out what it is going to be that I'm talking about.
And that's what we'll do next is we'll brainstorm the what you'll be talking about. But I want to hear one more personal reason why you want to learn, why you want to create a signature talk.
I also love the possibilities of income that can come from it as well.
Yeah.
It's like really fun for me to talk.
Excellent. Good. And I want to hear from one more person too.
Well,
Daniela's got that cool background now.
Yes. I've actually been wanting to interview people, and the signature talk it's not something I've ever considered before, but I want to talk with the why is kind of like, well, because I just want to get amazing information disseminated into big populations. That's all. I just want to be a spreader of the word.
Great. And I want to give the example of, what's his name? He wrote the 4-Hour Work Week. Tim Ferriss is one of the top rated podcasters, and his why for doing a podcast, which is what you're talking about, right, is he just wanted to talk to these successful breakthrough millionaire minded people because he wanted to get their secrets. So all those conversations he was having, he's like, these are the influencers who are changing culture. I want to pick their brains, and I'm doing it for the benefit of other people, but he's really growing as he does it. So that's a great example.
Yeah.
Good. I think Daniela first and then Sumati.
Oh, I am unmuted. Okay. So I feel like I have so many different topics that I want to share on, and I have so many different things that are alive. My difficulty is in honing in on one and like owning it fully. I'm also a channeler, and so when I spend too much time preparing, I end up in my head and I actually do a million times worse. I sputter and I stay in my mind, and I can't be in my body. So I actually have a lot of resistance around putting effort into this because I public speak with ease, but no fucking organization whatsoever. I just get myself in the situation and I flow. And I've never actually put myself in a stage type place for like large numbers, but I want to.
I'm just wanting to reflect back the theme around structure. Right?
Oh yeah.
Yes, to flow. I'm a no to structure. Like interesting.
Oh, I'm very aware of this. Yes.
Okay.
It's big on all levels. Yeah.
Thank you for tattletelling on that, Sumati.
Well, I just want to add, even though I have done a fair amount of speaking, the visibility of it, where your name gets out there more and more and people hear your name. And then directly, I got my Australia client from speaking at the One World Tantra Festival online. And finally, when you have one talk that you stick with over and over again, you hone it better. You sound really freaking intelligent because you've said the same thing over and over and found like the best way to say it. And also you can get a recording of your talk and put it on your website, either as a opt-in gift or just a freebie to show people what you teach. Or even if it's like a really good recording, you can like sell it on your website for $29.95 or something.
Excellent. Yeah. So did we meet Sumati before the symposium that you invited me to? Had we met before?
I met you at your first San Diego kind of convention, but I can't remember if that was before or after the summit. I think it was before.
Okay, beautiful. So from my recollection, it's like, here's an example of someone, our deepest connection was on her summit. So she held a summit, I was on it. And, you know, now we've got this deeper work we're doing together. So it's a great testimonial of, you know, here's how you land clients from the public speaking opportunities.
Right.
Great. All right. So I'm going to, you know, we have now plenty of motivation as to why, and we want to go into the what. But before we go into the what, I want to share my screen. Technical difficulties. I can't share my screen in this moment, but I will read to you some of the ISTA Tantra Festival titles of talks that are on their festival. And let's start with Sumati. What was the name of the talk that you gave that landed you your Australia client?
One World Tantra Festival.
Great. What was the name of the talk you gave?
Well, I did 2 workshops at that one, but the one that I've done the most is Transforming Jealousy into Love.
Gorgeous. Okay, so let me say up front, Sumati's title is participant focused. So as a participant, you know what your results are going to be. I'm taking this class to transform my jealousy into love. It gives you results right in the title. That's a fantastic signature talk title. Now, as I read some of these other titles, I want you to kind of brainstorm, maybe take a note of what inspires you of something that, you know, you might be able to talk on or not. And let me say this before I go on, because it's easy for me to read these and for you to think, oh, that's their area of expertise or they're masters in this or that. And the truth is, everybody in this room, like everyone in this gathering, is the world's best at something, right? Like each of us have our unique genius, and it, you know, it may or may not be in this field, but it's like there are life skills and tools and that have prepared you to share in a way that like I couldn't. And I'm going to invite your signature talk to really highlight something that you are excellent at. And or just something that's so easy for you, or you're like, I could do this in my sleep. You know, like that's the kind of thing you want to be able to help people with. And so having said that, some of these titles are awesome and some are meh, you know, bland, right? So at the beginning of this being the ISTA Tantra Festival, you know, we usually have an opening ceremony, and then there's point of view, which is a kind of a gathering of like empathy and support angels and anyone who needs process space. Usually Tantra festivals begin in the shallow end of boundaries workshops. So the first talk here is by Mariana Franca, who, yay, Mariana, you know, she's not with us right now because she's being evacuated in Brazil, but her workshop is the top example. And then Benoit does the mystery of cultivating Kundalini, where Tantra and the temple arts meet. We have Mistifer and if you know Don Cherie, doing the SSSTAR temple, which is the, I think, spiritual, sexual, shamanic theater and ritual. So it's a performance art kind of event. And now this is really powerful for people like Phoenix. I know you're not with us now, but like Phoenix does prayer formats. And, you know, if you want to put it together a performance as your signature thing that you offer at events, you can have, you know, you can add like an introduction and maybe a closing or a invitation at the end of it to package it and put it out there. So then we have Penny Goldsmith doing embodied practice to release worry and anxiety. That's pretty clear. There's Restorative Eros, The Solo Journey by Ellie Wild. There's The Shadow of Spirituality, Shamanic Womb Journey, Sex and Creativity, Orgasmic Yin Yoga, Keys to Seeding Your 2021. So we have a lot. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because there's like 60 of them here, but you know, it doesn't have to be like, oh, shamanic breath work. You all know what that is, and you know, speed dating. Some of them are experiential, like you know, I often will do snuggle parties, or you know, so sometimes it's this whole experiential temples, you know, but other times it's the I'm giving examples of like you can be known and as an embodiment teacher of ecstatic dance, for example. It doesn't always have to be if you're not ready to do the lecture, but today I am going to teach you how to do, you know, the lecture and the teaching part. So I'm going to just give a handful more examples and we'll get on to you brainstorming yours, right? So we have Menopause, Amrita, and Other Mystical Portals by Stephanie Phillips. We have The Embracing Totality by Corinne Yael, who I don't know actually. First person I've come across that I don't know. Dark Fucking Masculine by Raphael. And Blue Lotus Journey. So this is an example, like Blue Lotus Journey, Yasmin Hana has, and she has a whole teaching around it. But if you don't know it, if you've never been introduced to it, does that explain what it is? No, you'd have to read the description. And the best teaching on these titles are ones where the title actually explains what you're going to get out of it, like the generosity of selfishness, or cuddle your way to the temple, which is a kind of a temple introduction, which is a wonderful thing to offer. Is like those, like sex party etiquette is a talk that I used to give, and a couple more talk examples that I do currently give is, right now I got invited to, I can't remember what it was, but whenever I get invited to teach, like I have like 5 signature talks, because I could do how to write a book in 90 days, like a preview call for that. And then I know I'm talking to writers. I could do, if I've got a polyamorous audience, like Leveled Up Love is a polyamorous organization, and I know I'll do Wild Love Laboratory or Liberate Your Love Life. The same fucking talk, it's just different titles. I've been doing that talk probably for 20 years. And the idea is, that audience is different from a tantric audience, because I might have a bunch of tantrikas who are monogamous and want nothing to do with, you know, experimenting with their love life. So then I have a sex magic talk for just tantric or sacred sexual symposiums. And so if, as you develop, you can have multiple signature talks, but it's best, you know, as Sumati said, you like just practice one, rehearse it, get it down, and it just gets better and better. So let's go into, oh, good God, I pray this works. All right, I'm not seeing the button for breakout rooms. I want to go into breakout rooms, and I want to get us to.
Are you the co-host? Maybe you need to be the co-host to do that.
Yeah, that's what's happening, is that Brianne has access to that, and she has put it in a moment. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do, which is, in a moment, we're going to figure out how to do this in dyads. And we are going to have you say, here's a topic on which I could pull together anything. I mean, a signature talk can sometimes be 20 minutes. And that's what's cool about Liberate Your Love Life, is I've been asked to keynote for just 20 minutes. And I can also do it for fucking 3 hours or a whole, you know, day on it, or a weekend if I wanted. But a signature talk, generally you want to target a 90-minute talk. And then if a place says we need 2 hours, you go, great, I've got 90 minutes plus Q&A. And if it says we need 1 hour, you're like, here's what I need to cut, and I deliver it. And so let's intend for everyone on this call to say, what could I do a 90-minute talk on? And so,
Question, Katie.
uh-huh.
Are we brainstorming like multiple ideas, or are we just going to pick one and brainstorm on that one?
Great. In this moment, I invite you to do multiple ideas. And so this is valuable for Sumati, who already has one, to say, ooh, here's some other ones that I could come up with. But what are things that you could really master? And the other way to do it, because maybe it's just one thing, brainstorm multiple titles. That's really the first step, is coming up with a compelling title. So if you have one talk, take this time to do it. And so we'll go back and forth with your partner, where you come up with the title, they come up with the title, and you're just going back and forth. And according to Brianne, I need to log back into Zoom to make this work. And so what I'm going to suggest is that we take this 2-minute, bio break, stretch your body, and then log back in 2 minutes. I'll put the link in the chat. If it's a new link, then we'll use that. Otherwise, come back here. So I'll work it out and see you in 2. Thanks for your patience.
We're not supposed to log out, are we, Kana?
I didn't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
Okay, cool.
Me neither. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hey, we're just we're taking a bio break, and Katie's trying to figure out dyad rooms.
when I'm invited to be a keynote speaker in our field, they don't want me to stand up and just talk. They want me to get people in their bodies, to orient them towards the workshop, to do some kind of a, like, whether it's breath or eye gazing or introduction. And that's the distinction usually between talks and workshops is in other fields is like, are you getting a lecture or are you actually doing something experiential? Now, because we're teaching embodiment, or secret sexuality, or then they're really, you want it to be as experiential as possible. People remember experiences and emotions. If you make them feel, they'll remember the experience. They don't remember what we say. Like, wah, 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 it just goes through. If we bring it into the body, then they're like, ooh, that was memorable. I want more. So all the things that I was reading are technically workshops. Mm-hmm. And if you asked most of them, they wouldn't call them a signature talk, but we don't have signature talks in our field. I'm borrowing best teachings from like other fields and like saying, this is how you make a signature talk for our field. And in the end, look at it like, here's what I'll invite you to say. How can I give the most amount of value and transformation in a 90-minute period, like so that they get the most like powerful taste of what it is to do deep work with me? That's the point. Like, our uber intention is for them to sample like your style, and then they'll come in, they'll be so wowed by it, and they'll be like, I want you to be my mentor. I want to go deeper. I want to do one-on-one sessions with you, whatever it is, because you gave them that gold. And so ask yourself, what are the topics on which I can actually transform people in 90 minutes? And that's where you want to do your signature talk. Any other questions before breakout?
Yeah, because 90 minutes, like what I would want to give people in 90 minutes would be a lot of movement. That's a lot of what I teach.
Great.
Yeah, so it's not so much, wisdom. It's not so much the knowledge. I mean, I could do a little bit of both, but yeah, it's just so much more of it seems like a workshop than a talk.
So the thing though, maybe, I'm going to give you the technology and you can create the space, but when you're doing symposiums and podcasts, because people don't want to be staring at a screen for much longer, then you want to keep it to like an hour, right? So there's different formats for different things. There's the philosophy and the formula applies whether it's an in-person experiential or it's just in front of your screen, you giving your expertise and giving as much value as possible. And when you're doing broad podcasts and symposiums, people are often driving or doing the dishes, or they're not really like, ooh, I'm into the dance and I'm gonna do this like breath work and I'm gonna, because you're not holding them accountable by looking at them. So let's focus on what is the transmission that you can give in an hour. And then later you can layer in, if you get a workshop and want to give them experiential, you've got an hour lecture, but then you've got another hour of experiential you can layer in.
Got it. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions before we brainstorm? Okay.
Yeah, Jenna.
Go ahead.
Like what's coming up for me is just this very loud, like I can't do it. Not exactly imposter syndrome, but my whole thing we've been working on of like, oh God, I've just so much shame plaguing me, and I just feel like massively blocked on this, which is probably why my commitment for the last 2 sessions has been to do a webinar, and which is essentially a signature talk, and I haven't done it.
Yeah. So I do want to recommend that what's her name? Brene Brown. She has a Netflix now. There's a show, and like such a master at, like, she had so much shame and resistance and imposter syndrome. Like, she literally wanted to take down her TED Talk. And she's like, oh, only 5 people have viewed it. Let's take it down. And she starts writing the letter to take down. She's like, 5 goes to 10, goes to 25, goes to, 5,000. It went to 5 million. Now it's billions of people have seen that. And it's all about the very thing that you're talking about, that she was experienced, that she just put that forth in front of the camera. And people are just like, somebody is speaking truth. There's a humanity to that sense of, I'm not good enough, or who am I to do this speak, or like, I've been, I'm a raw fucking mess. I developed a new talk. I had my shiny Liberate Your Love Life talk for many years. And then when I had my nervous breakdown, what came through when I would show up is like, this is about being in the sacred messy. Like, how to navigate the sacred messy was my signature talk, because that's where I was. And to show up for what is, and to just give your heart is so much more. Those are the talks that touch us, that mean the most to us, that really help. Like, wow, if you had bad days, that means I have hope. So come as you are. All right, so we have an uneven number of participants, but that's okay. I'm gonna dive in. I'm gonna open rooms. We're just gonna have 10 minutes of back and forth. You name a title, they name a title, you name a title, and you can journal it as you go. We'll see you in 10.
I'm sorry, Arlie, I didn't mean to go back so soon. I clicked the button accidentally.
It's okay. It's okay. And you didn't really get a chance to share any ideas.
It's okay. I'm happy to support you. That was a good talk, I thought. Yeah.
That really helped me.
Good.
Do you have interest, Sumati, in doing another signature talk?
I've been doing another one called the ABCs of ENM, and then I put ethical non-monogamy in parentheses. And I've really been honing that. And I actually see a book in the future where every chapter is one of the letters.
Right.
Like, I had a download one day where it just, a word with every letter came through me. And I really even loved like the order, how they came through, kind of as you walk people through it, So that's something that's really alive in me right now.
Great. So since we're all back, Sumati, would you share the title of your next? She's working on her second signature talk. It's called
the ABCs of ENM, which is ethical non-monogamy, for those that don't know. The ABCs of ENM.
Yay. Okay, so what you just did is the beginning of step 1, right? Step 1 is to come up with a compelling title. And I want to give you some examples. Like, you might have a raw list, and then you want to play with it. Like, ooh, how do I upgrade this? Now, this is an example. I'm not in love with it, but my coach, Lisa Sasevich, teaches this whole, like, how to do a signature talk and not be salesy. But a lot of the focus is on sales conversion, because she's the queen of sales. And so someone might come with a title like self-love as the signature talk. And she would, massage it and upgrade it to something like, attention professional women, increase your energy, double your free time, and manifest more, right? Like, the talk is about self-love, but the title is benefit, 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 right? Like, why would I sign up for that? And her whole thing is that your title, you want to say, this is super valuable. This is why you're going to invest time and money into it. And, sometimes it's a free talk, sometimes it's not. A lot of times, if you're getting booked, you really want your title to sell the course itself. So think about, like, ooh, that's the title is often just the topic, and then think, what is the benefit to the client, and how can I put that into the title? Now, The second step is when you begin, you want to create the container. So at the beginning of almost every play shop, workshop, Zoom call, I usually do like a centering or meditation. And, you know, I sometimes do, sometimes don't with this group because a lot of us are like just high vibration beings. But a lot of times it's like, I want to get people to turn off their other distractions, to gather their energy, to be present. And that's because of the culture that I'm in. A lot of professionals would be like, like I would lose, if I started meditating at the beginning of the class, I would lose half my audience. Like you got to know your audience and create a container for them. So creating a container it can have multiple aspects to it. And one of the most important things is, what is the intention? Like to actually share, like, here's why I'm here and here's what you're going to get out of it. Right now, there's an internal intention. We talked about, like, you might be doing it to get more clients. You might be doing it to convert sales, or to meet people or network, or, you know, these might, or just to fucking make people laugh or tell an entertaining story. Like, what's your intention? But what's your intention for what you want them to get out of it? That's what you speak, right? So it's my hope by the end of today's talk that you all feel that you have everything that you need in order to put together your, you know, first or second signature talk. Like, that's my intention, is to give you all the raw material and then you get to build it. But other things that create a container are to say, for example, like, turn off all your distraction for 90 minutes, or, you know, open your chat box and talk to other people, or no chatting. You know, what's the culture that you want to create for how you're doing your talk? That's how you set that. And I highly recommend, if you are going to do a sales pitch at the end of the call, that you tell them now. So for those of you that are really committed to creating a signature talk that sells, I'm going to share with you at the end of the call how to get deeper accountability, or how you work with me, or make it happen beyond this call, right? So it's kind of just planting the seed that there will be a sales invitation at the end of the call, right? And that sales invitation can be related to the call, or it could just be, I'm offering a free discovery call afterwards. We can talk about that when we get there. But you want to tell them to stay to the end, please. So you're planting the seed that, like, this is the opening of the container. Please stay all the way to the end. And the number 3 is creating a roadmap. Now, I get really lazy with my roadmap apps. They're usually just for me. Like, this is the organized part of me. Like, I'm like, oh, we're going to cover this, this, and this, because I need to remember what the hell I'm doing half the time. So don't do as I say, do as the experts do, which is they create a really appetizing menu that offers super, like, tantalizing. And then we're going to learn, you know, how, when you're self-pleasuring, you can send that energy to the 5th dimension, you know, and circulate energy with your guides, or whatever it is. Like, you like give them headlines of, here's where we're on the roadmap, exciting stops that we're going to make. And a real master makes each of those points on the menu actually benefit or result oriented as well, so that when they hear the menu of where we're going, they're like, ooh, I want to learn that. I want to learn that. So I have to stay to the end, because look at all these great things they're covering. Now, like I said, roadmaps can look a lot of different ways, but you do want to be transparent in your roadmap and say, you know, if you're going to have an invitation to go deeper, or a sales conversation at the end, you know, just add that into the roadmap. So then we come to the meat, right? Number 4 is actually the body of the talk. Now, I want to give you some general tips about how to turn, like, just your title into the body. And I will say that it does require a kind of a brainstorming process, and it'd be great, whoever your accountability buddy just was, to, if you want, or whoever you were just with, to keep them as your accountability buddy and to actually brainstorm with them more ideas. I recommend, for example, today's talk, right? So I haven't given this talk before in this order. And this morning I was like, oh, it looks like a, I don't know if you can see my notes, but it's kind of like a mind map, this, that, like I've got crazy lines and it's 3 pages of, like that all over. And that's what my body of this talk looks like is, oh, it's going to be sloppy and crazy. And then on the final page, I'm like, let me throw together a roadmap so it has some order to it, from the, explosion of ideas to this is the sequence that makes the most sense. So give yourself permission to have an explosion of ideas, including ideas that don't make it into the talk, which is important. Good brainstorms are more material than you actually need, because sometimes in the Q&A, people are going to ask questions and it's like you pull this from other stuff you thought about. But the key here are the key points, right? So you're creating all this brainstorm, and now you want to start to shape it. Begin with the end in mind. When you're shaping it, ask yourself, not just what do I want them to take home and go away with, what do I want their next steps to be? What do they need to know in order to hire me? And I highly recommend all of your signature talk have a sales conversation at the end, even if it's just, I'd love to have a one-on-one discovery call with you. Like, even if it's just that, or if the sales conversation is, please go to my website and check out my free gifts. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has to have some kind of a come do deeper work with me. But what do they need to know in order to take that action or to do the next thing? And design your workshop towards that. The next note is make a list of like stories or case studies or examples that are colorful and emotional. People get very overwhelmed if it's a huge like how-to and a bunch of steps. And the more they can relate, the more their mirror neurons turn on and the more exciting it gets. I'm not, I'm happy to offer that as it comes up. But take a moment and think about the best speeches that you've heard. And they're usually ones where people are very vulnerably sharing their stories. That's what we relate and becomes more memorable. So be willing and actually create a file on your computer, or your notebook or your Love Leadership Journal that has success stories from your clients, right? Part of a signature talk is to position you as an expert in the field. And so every time you get a win or a success story from a client, keep track of that and you can use that into your body. And I'll give you another example. Like if your dear intention is, I want to build my Instagram list, or I want to like have a presence on social media, and I know that giving signature talks means I can have more people follow me. So if that's the case, then somewhere in your talk, tell the story of like, oh, on Instagram, I like review, like I'll tell you one example for me. This is real time. Actually on Facebook, I told the story of when I was doing emotional release tools in line at the airport because I was so upset that my flight got canceled or got postponed that they called security on me. They brought out a wheelchair. They wheeled me. They're like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm shaking. They're like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just doing emotional release. And they're like, she's having a blood sugar attack. They wheeled me into the VIP food section and gave me free food. Like that happened to me. And then I told everyone on Facebook and it was a riot, right? And so doesn't that make you want to follow me on Facebook? like, but I tell those kinds of stories, right? So you want to have these colorful anecdotes that lead people to what it is that you're, inviting or deeper engagement with you. So that was an example of emotion and authenticity, because people will remember what they feel. And then it is important, even like, do the hour of the talk, but also have what are the exercises that are embodied that go with the teaching. So it's not just movement for movement's sake. It's like, ooh, what's actually going to support their expression or their processing, right? Like, so in this class, we simply have like, hey, we've got 1 minute wins. We've got a brainstorm of topics. We know we're going to talk at the end about what we're doing. It's not a whole lot of engagement, but if it was 2 straight hours of me talking, you'd feel like, okay, it's overwhelming. When do I get to express? You want it to be, impressing and expressing so that it's not depressing. All right, next, I'm going to give you a formula that is really common in the sales culture. And we've talked about it already when we created the anatomy of a sales call, but it's very common for people to put it into their signature talks as well. And it serves to motivate your listeners, and that's to activate the gap. All right, so the formula of activating the gap is a map of this is where you are and this is where you want to get to. So good signature talk says, and let's give me a topic. What's a topic that you're excited about, one of you? Yeah.
Why connecting with horses and Tantra makes you a pleasurable woman.
Ooh, fun. Yay. Give me one more topic, since I'm not an expert at horses.
Okay.
I can't quite pull that out of my pocket, but Bree, what was yours?
Working title, but turning sexual trauma into kinky pleasure.
Ooh, fun. Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to stretch myself on the horse one. And I'm going to say, so you're all here at Jenna's Cowgirl Retreat. And, where we are in our suburban lives that are maybe nuclear households, separated from nature.
Sorry to interrupt. It would be, they're not actually at the retreat yet, because the retreat's going to be the sales pitch.
It's the webinar for it, right?
Right.
All right, so in the webinar, we would be, I would be pointing out how in nuclear households, in conventional modern times, like we don't have enough connection from nature. Like there's a part of our soul that's like longing and cut off from our animal nature. And just pointing out like how much screen time we all have, how much, like how everything's meets at right angles. And so this is the where we are. And then we start to vision, like, wouldn't it be nice to be on this retreat where we got to be in the fresh air and then to actually commune with the high intelligence of these incredible beasts and to have that power between our legs and to feel the reminder of our animal bodies, like this is our nature, this is where our power comes from. And so we're painting a picture of what's possible for us when we reconnect with nature in that way, and we commune with the medicine of the horses. What's possible is a reconnection to our intuition, to our power, to our adventure, and how life will look different, with that experience. Okay, so we've now said, oh, I'm in this pain and suffering, but there's this doorway towards something more. And we want to be, as the guides to that doorway, we want to be presenting ourselves as the person who can lead them to that vision. Okay. I have to acknowledge that in my little roadmap here, because that was, my numbering is wrong. That's what happens when you have a messy roadmap. But there is, let's call it a 3.4, 3.5, I mean, which is between 3 and 4. There should be a who am I introduction, right? Like I've been to the horse ranch and I've come back with the t-shirt. I've been through the ups and the downs. I know what it's like to be unplugged and then replugged. And now here I am to tell you, come with me, let's go on this adventure. That story, like, so you need to create your story, why they should listen to you. And that comes right after the roadmap. Like, here's where I'm taking you, and here's why you're listening to me as your guide, right? And then after the roadmap, you can get into the body of the talk, which is what we're talking about. And so those are some of the best tips and tools for creating the body of the talk. I'm really open if anybody wants to, add anything to that. After the body of the talk, we go into the conclusion. And so it used to be, we go into the sales, which is number 5, now 6 or 5.5, however you want to number. And so the sales conversation, sometimes called, getting people to a commitment, to a commitment conversation or a buying decision. People call it different things, but we're basically talking about closing. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on closing because we've done the anatomy of the sales call and we talked about that. But truly, masters of sales, and even like as amateurs, we need to practice our sales conversation, and masters practice it all the time. They write it out, they rehearse it in the shower, they rehearse it while they're horseback riding. Like, you want to practice the words and refine it and have it roll off your tongue. And again, whatever your offer is, whether it's for a discovery call or it's an invitation to a mastermind for a year long, you want it to, just be the most natural next step for them. And the invitation, what one of the things that you want to do with your accountability buddy is practice that again and again. So I'm going to invite you, I know I've invited you to do this in the past, do it again this week if you can, because this is the place where if we don't invite people to do deeper work with us, and we have the skills and tools and tips and the soul contract to do that, the kind of inner guidance to do that, it's almost criminal. It's really not fulfilling your calling. And so it is an area that I encourage everyone to work on, because it can change someone's life. Like, that conversation, can transform the trajectory of someone's entire life. Now, we move on to number 7. It's my new 7, which is the conclusion. And so I'm going to wrap up this talk by modeling that, first we talked about how important the compelling title is. And then number 2, so the conclusion is just the summary that I'm going through. Number 2 is to create the container and the expectations of the call. Number 3 is doing the roadmap. And now we're adding this new one, which is, who am I? Before going into the body of the talk, making an invitation, which sometimes, by the way, in the order of things, if I only have an hour with someone, I will do the invitation at the midway point, because a lot of people don't stay till the end of the call and you don't want it to be rushed. So you make the invitation, and then like if you're like, oh, I've got a 10-step process. I get through 5 steps, I make an invitation to do more work with me, and then I finish the next 5 steps. Now I'm doing the conclusion. And after I've wrapped up everything that I have told you, we're going to do a harvest. So my favorite harvest is, is to ask the group, as I'm going to ask you now, like, what was the most valuable thing that you got? Or sometimes I ask, considering all the steps and tools I just gave you, what's your next step? What's the thing that you're able to do next, right? And so with that said, we're going to do a little round circle, and this is going to lead us into our homework. And that is what is actually, hey, this is what I learned. So this is my next step that I want to do this week with this, and I'm going to be held accountable for it. Okay. That's going to be our harvest after we do our Q&A. Anything you want to add or ask?
Yeah, when would a Q&A come?
Great. So the Q&A you build in before the conclusion and the harvest. So you get the Q&A, and then you wrap up. This is what we covered, and then harvest.
After the invitation, though.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's because Q&As go so wonky, and they're like, honestly, it's the area I'm the strongest at. And I imagine someone like Daniela would be great at Q&As too, because you don't have to fucking plan. But most people are like, ooh, if you want it to be controlled and you're taking people on a journey, it's like, then it's a chaotic, like, you don't know, you get sometimes loose cannons that will hijack the conversation. And you want them to get all their value so that if they're going to leave early, what they're missing is the Q&A. Great. Sumati.
I'll just add that the piece you were referring to Brene Brown a couple times, and the piece about authenticity, just to emphasize how important that is in the signature talk, that we really share, like we touch on, like, what is my core wound and how did I overcome that through what I'm going to show you, so that we want to attract people who resonate with us, who say, wow, you really get me. We don't want to just appeal to the entire universe. We want to find the people who are going to pay us, a high premium rate because they feel like we're the ones that understand what they're going through. So for example, with me, I share, like, I was super jealous, and here's some crazy shit I did when I was really jealous, but I know I'm polyamorous as an orientation. So what am I going to do? I'm super jealous, but I'm polyamorous. So here's how I transform my jealousy into love. And so I really go in deep with, like, how jealous I was and what the core wound was around that, and then depending on how much time I have, I'll really go into that and show how I got to the other side, where now I can have joyful polyamorous relationships and dance with the jealousy. So people who are super, super jealous go, oh my God, you really get me. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And that would be in the Who Am I section, right?
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. And so, Bree, what's the talk you're most compelled to do?
I mean, I've got
abuse to kink. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Turning sexual shame into kinky pleasure.
Shame into kink. Okay, great. So with you, in your who am I, in that topic, it is really valuable to talk about your own sexual abuse. Like, that is something that you're like, oh, this is actually relevant, helpful. People realize the depths of experience I've had and had to overcome, and that goes perfectly in there. Yeah. Other questions, comments?
Number one was
the compelling title.
Okay. It was so obvious I missed it.
Question about the compelling title. How important is it to also create, like, a tagline?
It's recommended, but not necessary. It kind of depends on the format of who you're sending it to.
The tagline is really just to offer a little more information about the talk, right?
Yeah. So, I've got a whole thing about books and book titles, and, like, it's really important when you're writing a book, if it's nonfiction, to have a subtitle that actually explains what the hell's going on, but the subtitle also has to have keywords so that it increases your SEO. And you know what I'm saying? Like there's like a whole sales thing about that. But the reality of like, if you're submitting to Tantra festivals and or podcasts, is they often like have a form where you just put the title in the description, and there's not always a space for a subtitle. So you can have it or not have it. It can be built in. For some reason, like book titles are supposed to be shorter. Talk titles are actually supposed to be more successful when they're longer because they're more, explanation. But you want to capture like the essence and have it be something that feels seductive, attractive. And your title sounds great to me. It's very clear what you're going to get in, from sexual shame to kink. It's like, we're going on a journey. And it also rules out people who it's not for. You don't have to go in the beginning of the title like, this is not for you if you're a prude. It's like, obviously. That's the other piece I'll offer, let me talk to you about the sales conversation for a second, okay? I know we've talked a lot about it, but when you have a whole hour with either your audience or someone else's audience, and ideally signature talks are the best because somebody else is curating the audience for you and you just kind of step in as an expert and it gives you like street cred. And you want to be as generous as possible, like really just give them the gold. And at the end you can share, here's a good transition. It's like, I have given you everything that I know, like here's all the raw pieces so that you can, like transform your sexual shame into experimental kinkiness, right? Like whatever it is, I've like delivered on the promise. And I know in my heart of hearts that not all of you are going to run with this, like, and take it and run. Like a lot of you, you'll have a good intention leaving here, you'll feel inspired, but then you'll go back home and you'll be like, oh, I've got to make meals and take care of the dog. And, like life just happens and you go back into your habits. And what I'm asking of you is pretty radical transformation, which often takes more accountability, which takes more support, which takes more guidance. And some of you have that built into your life, which is great. But those of you who are looking for deeper mentorship, who are really committed to making this happen, I want to invite you into a conversation to see if I'm the right support for you to actually follow through with everything I've given you here and more. So it's that kind of a sales conversation where you're like, this is what I gave you, but what's missing is the encouragement, the expertise, the accountability, the like hands-on, the embodiment. Like it's one thing to get it up here, like I've given you a download, but then how do you sequence it all the way down through your pelvis into your toes? And sometimes I can tell people, it's not for everyone. You may want to like close your eyes, feel into your belly, and just notice if this is for you. So those are some tips on the closing, on the invitation. All right, are we ready to do our next steps? What we're gonna do, who was the secretary from last week? I think that was you, Bree, right? No, somebody else? Who wants to volunteer to be this week? Great. So Daniela, if you would look at the list that's posted on Facebook, and if you can pull that up, and we're going to go through, and you're going to give yourself a number of how you did last week. So you're held accountable, but then you're going to make clear on, we're going to brainstorm what your next step is. So come to this with an idea. Who has an idea? Bree, you have a question?
No, I think it was me actually.
Okay, great. So Daniela, do you have this week's? No. Bree, if you could wrap up last week and Danielle will take notes on this week.
Okay. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but so I have Kana first on my list. So I'm just reminding of what their accountability was from 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Okay. Scheduling from self-love, and how you distilled that was self-care comes first, spending 2 hours a day on yoga, meditation, or channeling.
Yeah, I nailed it.
Woohoo!
9 to 10.
Yay!
Something in that range.
Great. And this week, what do you want to do?
Wow, I'm always first. You're top of the list and you have to keep going. I want to get, can I come back to me?
Sure. So yeah, and so for everyone, my desire, my hope, I know we're all working on different things, but because we've got the synergy of the signature talk here, I'm going to invite you to some part of the signature talk. Like maybe it's, hey, I'm going to do that brainstorm piece. Maybe for Sumati, it's like, hey, I've done it so many times, but I don't have a really good recording. Maybe I will give it in a way that I can record and sell, or record and send out, or, like, what is it that your next step is around the talk? And I want you guys to know, even though you're like, oh, I want to create the talk in 2 weeks, like, this is often takes more than 2 weeks. It's okay. So break it down, chunk it down to a piece of this. Maybe you want to just write your story of like, oh, what's my transformative story of why people should listen to me? I think that's a really good one for everyone here. Maybe it's the description of the workshop first, because you can imagine this is what I'm going to send to, and by the way, I do this all the time. I have a bunch of workshop descriptions. I send them off. I really have no idea what I'm going to talk about until the day I show up. But the description is written. And Daniela, you may want to do that because you know that if somebody hires you, you're going to show up and shine. So from that list or more, who's after Kana?
Oh, goodness. Sorry. Jenna, the webinar on the workshop or retreat, and then post website on group to receive feedback from the coven.
Okay. Oops. I did post the website, and Arlie, am I saying it right? Gave some feedback that I incorporated at least some of it so far.
Thanks, Arlie.
And I'm a 0 on the webinar. So hopefully I'll be committed.
Evens out to about a 5.
Okay, thanks. Let's try.
So what do you want to do this week?
I really do want to do this webinar. Yeah, just have the ovaries to do it.
Great.
And also, yeah, in the next 2 weeks, yeah. I mean, I'm running out of time. The retreat's coming up soon. It's going to be like useless at a certain point, but even if it's useless, I just want to freaking do it.
What's the date you want to do it on?
Well, I'm in Brazil until Thursday, and like actually until Wednesday, and then I have 24 hours of flying and then landing. So, realistically, it would be the week after that.
Okay. If you land on Wednesday, you could do it on, oh, I see, you need time before. Got it. Like Monday or Tuesday. They say,
yeah, well, I need to at least, yeah.
They say Tuesday is the biggest social media day, by the way, that like most posts get seen on Tuesdays.
Oh, really?
Great. Okay. So post,
okay.
Let the whole group know when you do your webinar.
Okay. Thank you.
Who's next?
Next is Ella, daily meditation and movement in the morning.
I would give myself a 7, solid 7. And for the next week, I actually would like to attempt writing my signature talk. I got inspired. The topic, or I don't need to give a topic.
Go ahead and tell us.
Find your perfect man within you.
Ooh, great. And so you want for the next 2 weeks to write the whole thing, a draft of the whole thing? Or is there a chunk you want to declare?
Just to allow myself to brainstorm and to put ideas down, not necessarily in order, brainstorming. Yeah.
Great. Good. Okay.
Liz is not here. I was next. My accountability from 2 weeks ago was to time block 4 hours a week, post a couple live videos speaking about what I do and invite people to like my Facebook coaching page. I'm going to give myself a 4. And my next goal is, get clear on what my transformational story is. Because I could see that being able to be used for multiple of my talks.
Excellent.
That would be good. Thank you. And then Arlie is next. Daily.
I want to challenge you on that, Bree. I think it's a perfect assignment for you, but get clear on it isn't clear to me. So I want to challenge you. Who's your accountability buddy?
Is it the same one we're carrying over?
Whoever you were in the dyad breakout with.
Oh, Jenna.
Okay, so Jenna, whether you get on the phone or on Vox, I want you to rehearse a shitty first draft of your transformational story.
Okay.
And this is something that Jenna'd actually be a great one, since this is up for you. Like, what's my new story? The both of you doing that for each other would be great.
Okay, cool.
And you can see how Jenna's story for the cowgirl retreat might be different than her story for pleasurable weight loss, right? Like, you can see how we change that story by Sumati's instruction to, like, how I'm perfect for this journey and this audience. Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So next is
okay, great, Bree.
What?
You said thumbs up.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Daily self-love practice with movement, meditation, and or gratitude. And then create an ideal work schedule for when you get home with permission to integrate.
I did that. And what's very cool is because now I know my work schedule, I had somebody contact me who is going to be visiting in town looking to rent a space. So I might be able to rent out my studio for the 2 days I'm not using it to another like tantrika. So then she'll like pay my rent. So it's amazing.
Hey, that's a fantastic story.
And I wouldn't have necessarily been open to that before deciding, no, I only am going to see clients these days and between these times. And this is my self-care time. And it's really empowering.
That is going in my success file. That's a case study right there. Love it.
This happened yesterday.
This week.
So this is all bringing up a lot of beautiful things about how I have no fucking idea what my brand is aside from my, alter ego brand. And besides men, who am I here to help is kind of the question I'm asking myself right now. And Sumati got, and I'm sorry if I said your name wrong again. I'll get better as we are partners.
Sumati, go ahead and say it for everyone again.
Sumati. Think of the emphasis on the first syllable. Sumati.
Sumati. Okay. She helped, coach me and help me kind of see a potential audience that I'm here to help and what I'm here to do besides just what I do. And so I feel like without that, it's hard to just come up with a signature talk, because I really want to come up with a signature talk, but I don't really know what I want to keep my focus on. So I think that would be my homework is the brainstorming on that. on what am I here to do? And what are the transformations I've taken myself through, and what am I most excited to kind of start to share first?
Excellent. Bravo.
Beautiful. Elvira is a learn to create a blog and an autoresponder to capture emails.
I'll give myself 5 because I'm on it, and I will work on the same for the next weeks and find out what to talk about in my signature talk.
Good. So when you create a blog, some of the pieces of this talk could go in the blog. Like you could have a blog post that says, here's my transformative journey. You could have a blog post that says, here's like one of the 10 steps that I'm covering in my signature talk. Like a blog can actually be an outlet for, like, there's a repurposing that we can do with our signature talk once we get that material together. Good.
Okay.
Sumati is next. Review the bingo and the couples coaching post. Create woman's step-by-step group for Debtors Anonymous, and get the first class on the calendar.
Yeah, I would say 10. I did set up the women's step study group. It's a 12-step group because I'm really focused on my money here, like making money. And because obviously I've had a lot of coaching and training around business, but the money's not showing up yet. So Katie knows that that's kind of my Achilles heel here. So I'm really wanting to give attention to my Debtors Anonymous program. So I started like a women's step study group, and we got the date on the calendar. It's the 28th is our first one. And so I'm kind of organizing all the women, bringing them together. And so that's been going really great. I've been staying on top of it. And then I went through all of the Facebook group for this group so far, and I haven't watched all the videos, but I watched about 3 of them, and printed out all the materials and watched the one about the bingo and printed that out and looked it over. So I did everything I wanted to do. I wasn't expecting myself to watch every single old video that you guys have done, but I did watch a few of them. So I feel good about what I did.
Great.
Oh, and so next time, I want to see the anatomy of the sales call video that you did. I haven't seen that one yet. And then also I have my one-on-one with Katie next week. So I'm sure you're going to give me a shitload of stuff. So I'm just going to wait till then to get some to-dos.
Wonderful. Good. I look forward to that.
Daniela was next. Schedule self-care for 2 hours, 4 days a week for body movement, meditation, and processing.
I was spinning for a lot of the week. And so although I did lots of care, it was really like reactionary care and not like getting ahead of what was happening, but like managing what was flowing. You know what, I'm gonna give myself a 5, because even though it was reactionary, it was still self-care. I did drop into a lot of care. I spent some quality time with my friends and really allowed myself to be caretaken within my IST community a couple of times, which is often uncomfortable for me. So different kinds of self-care, but really powerful. Yeah, so I'll give myself a 5. I would like to focus. I'm actually really all over the map. So I can feel this really big transition moving through me. I'm feeling much more directed towards working at women. Like everyone that's coming to me right now is a woman. I haven't received a message from a man in about almost 2 weeks, which is crazy to me because that's all I ever get. And so I want to stay in flow with managing what's coming to me, and I want to get more comfortable in the direction I want to go with women. So if this is what's coming to me, what am I doing? And I would like to go back and review the sales call one, because I'm finding myself, so I've put myself in other people's coaching things. Like I've been doing a couple of like one-off talks, and like I'm the embodiment person for other people's stuff. So I'm starting to receive calls from those kinds of women. And I want to go back in and be able to, you know, offer a better discovery call, essentially.
Great. Good. Who's your accountability buddy?
Elvira.
Good. So I want to recommend a rehearsal of your invitation. Like, again, that's something we can't rehearse enough. And it's just really valuable to do that with somebody listening, even if it's just recording it to your accountability buddy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Who's next?
You. Continuing your labor of love for the coven and spend 10 hours a week dedicated to writing.
Yes. Yay. I give myself a 7. I feel like I made a post about how I feel like a pro writer because I'm really spending my mornings, but then there'll be mornings like this morning when I'm like, ooh, signature talk. I'll spend my writing time brainstorming for it. So I really split my, yeah, it's creative for me, creative writing, the coven. And I want to actually repeat that this coming week, that this like focus on me having this 2-hour routine, and specifically I want to finish the outline for my novel. So I'll say, regardless of how much time I spent, the outline for my novel is done in 2 weeks. Okay, and then we've got Phoenix and Liz and Mariana, who hopefully will check in and we'll arrange them as accountability buddies. But is everybody clear who their accountability buddy is?
I need to say mine still.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're circling back.
Yeah. I'm so glad I listened to everyone else's. So I'm going to create a mind map for my signature talk about why sexual healing matters. And this is going to really help me distill and get really concrete about invitation talks, sales pitches, and having conversations that normalize hands-on sexual healing. So the mind map, and probably like at the end of 1 week, mind map, and the end of 2 weeks, I want to have like a really clear, this kind of is just also content for my website, like what it is that I do and how it is that I work with people. Yeah.
Good. Daniela, you got that? Sweet. Thank you. Excellent. So let's take a moment to just feel the group. Like as you look at the, various screens, we're kind of a kaleidoscope of different flavors and, colors and essences. And Jenna, if you can turn your screen on just for a moment, it'd be sweet to just vision each of us giving our signature talks. Like this, like, wow, we all have so much to share. And as we speak out from our hearts, it ripples out to untold audiences, and then it changes their lives, which ripples out to change the lives of their sphere of influence. Like the potency of our coven gathering and saying, we are messengers, we have something to say. Let's like be channels for this message to come through, and let's let it change the world. Know that we're doing this together so that we can collectively make a greater up-leveling of love on the planet. So with that prayer field, I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks and talking to you and your accountability buddies until then. 3 weeks. I'm going to be in New York. Who else is going to New York? Anyone? Yay. So Ella and I will be at level 2, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Love.
Blessings.
Sending love.